My name is Anna Miller, and today I celebrate my 32th birthday. I currently share a home with my husband, James, who is 4 years my senior, and our delightful 6-year-old son. We are a cozy family of 3. Today's agenda includes attending a wedding ceremony of a friend, although the connection is stronger with James than with me, as I merely recognize them by face. The event is hosted at a luxurious first-class hotel, which I can't help but admire. As James mingled and exchanged greetings with various guests, I excused myself to the restroom. Upon returning, I was unfortunately met with harsh whispers that seemed overly loud and purposeful. The comments were distasteful and overtly offensive, though not directed at me personally. Wanting to avoid any unpleasantness, I chose to leave the area. As I walked away, a rude shout aimed to grab my attention, but I continued, determined not to acknowledge the insult. My decision seemed to provoke further pursuit as I heard footsteps hastening behind me. Ignoring them only led to my arm being abruptly seized. I faced a breathless woman who seemed surprised when I firmly freed myself from her grasp, causing her to stumble back in an exaggerated reaction. At that moment, another woman approached, accusing me of violence and ignorance, and questioning my identity in a confrontational tone. Despite her accusatory demeanor, I genuinely did not recall her or the other woman. They introduced themselves as my sister, Natalia, and my mother, names that did not stir any recognition in me. The situation escalated quickly as they expressed frustration with my responses. Soon, 2 men approached, drawn by the commotion. One was referred to as Dad, and the other was Benjamin. Their reactions were starkly different. Dad looked visibly displeased to see me, while Benjamin seemed shocked, his complexion turning pale. The confrontation grew as Natalia insisted I was an intruder at their wedding. This mix-up at the wedding, surrounded by people who failed to show basic courtesy, was perplexing and unsettling. As accusations flew, I stood bewildered, surrounded by familiar names yet faces that felt like strangers, on what should have been a joyous occasion. The tension in the air was palpable as a heated exchange unfolded at the wedding. Amidst the chaos, someone shouted for security, prompting a quick intervention to calm the rising tempers. "Hold on, watch your language," I heard someone caution. At that moment, the man everyone referred to as Dad sided with Natalia, while Benjamin, looking quite distressed, tried to mediate the situation. Amidst this, I muttered under my breath, a comment lost in the flurry of voices. Just then, my husband James appeared, bringing a new focus to the gathering. "There you are, Anna. I've been looking everywhere for you," he announced, drawing all eyes to himself. I couldn't help but respond with a wry smile. I got caught up with some folks, hinting at the absurdity of the situation. James quickly assessed the scene with a keen eye. Natalia, initially fixated on James's arrival, shot me a sharp glare as I moved to stand by his side. The so-called parents looked on, bewildered by the unfolding events, while Benjamin, flustered, was the first to break the silence. "Mr. Miller, I must apologize." My wife spoke out of turn. "I'm truly sorry to your wife as well," he stammered, then turned to Natalia. "Come on, Natalia, apologize too." Natalia, defiant, retorted, "Why should I apologize? They should be the ones apologizing." She continued to accuse me of crashing their important day. "This woman is a disgrace to our family. We should have severed ties with her long ago and never met again." The revelation seemed to shock Benjamin as he glanced between Natalia and me, trying to piece together the connection. Just then, the 2 elders, referred to as Dad and Mom, chimed in with an apology. "Oh, Benjamin, we're terribly sorry. Our eldest has always been a problem," they explained, revealing that they had disowned me 10 years earlier. "We've tried to keep this quiet. How did she even know about Natalia's wedding? Surely, she isn't here to cause troubles." They labeled me as the family outcast who, after high school, never pursued further education but instead floated from one part-time job to another. "She's been nothing but a parasite. She should be thankful for the support through high school," they added, painting a starkly unflattering picture of my past. Despite the harsh words, I felt detached. These were indeed the people the family registry identified as my relatives, but my emotional ties to them had long been severed. They had always favored my younger sister, 5 years my junior, over me. Our father's family had a long lineage of doctors, and our home doubled as a clinic where my mother worked as a nurse. To outsiders, we might have seemed a family without lacks, but the reality was a home steeped in toxicity. I recall striving for my parents' affection in my youth, only to abandon all hope as they openly favored my sister, for reasons that eluded me. Unlike the attractive and cherished Natalia, I was the overlooked one. But I was determined and academically gifted, which became my pathway out of that toxic environment. As I grew, the message from my parents was clear: you will not go to university. You're inherently flawed. Start working right after high school and contribute financially. Be grateful that you were raised at all. Their expectations for me were grounded solely in obligation, not in belief in my potential. In contrast, they considered funding Natalia's education, underscoring the disparity in their affection and support. Through these challenges, I realized that any expectation of parental love was futile. My focus shifted entirely to forging my path, away from the role of the unwanted elder sister, towards independence and self-reliance. During my senior year of high school, my parents made it clear that they had little faith in my future. Even if you manage to find a job, it won't amount to much, they would tell me dismissively. Unbeknownst to them, I had been recording these harsh conversations. Throughout my high school years, I meticulously documented the verbal abuse and unreasonable demands from my family. My sister Natalia, following our parents' lead, often belittled me and aspired openly to succeed where they implied I had failed. I will become a doctor and take over Dad's practice. Don't worry, I'll work hard enough for both of us since my big sister can't, she'd say proudly as our parents nodded in agreement. These conversations, openly demeaning, played out regularly as if scripted for a drama, underscoring their disdain for me while praising Natalia as the family's pride. After high school, I worked various part-time jobs for about 4 years. Technically, I was still living at home where I was considered a nuisance, yet they refused to let me leave, wanting to keep me under their control. Secretly, I rented an apartment, knowing well that as an adult, I no longer needed their permission to make my own decisions. There were challenges like finding a guarantor, but I reported less income than I actually earned to minimize the financial demands of my family. Additionally, I started investing, slowly growing my savings. When Natalia was preparing for her high school entrance exams, she claimed she couldn't concentrate with me around, and I was finally asked to leave. My parents probably expected this to be a temporary situation, but for me, it was the break I needed to gain full independence. To their surprise, I never returned. Over time, I became irrelevant to them. Natalia was all they needed. 10 years later, while attending a wedding, I overheard an argument between Natalia and her now-husband, Benjamin. Despite the tension, it seemed to be a misunderstanding about the guest list. Benjamin insisted that I was a guest. This was the wedding day of Natalia and Benjamin, a fact I had acknowledged but felt detached from, as my interest in the family drama had long waned. As the argument escalated, my father suddenly recognized Benjamin's connection to a prestigious medical family. "Isn't he the son of the head of Miller General Hospital?" he exclaimed, surprised. My mother and Natalia echoed his shock, recognizing the significance of the connection. At that moment, my husband James introduced himself. "Nice to meet you. I'm James Miller. This is my wife, Anna," he said with a warm smile. James's parents were well-respected doctors who had managed a hospital for many years. James himself was a promising medical student, passionate about his future in medicine. My parents' reaction was one of sheer amazement, a stark contrast to their previous dismissals of my potential. Suddenly, amidst the surprise and reconciliations, Natalia's husband intervened, perhaps to clarify the situation further or to ease the tension that his in-laws' sudden interest had sparked. It's almost surreal to think that Dr. Miller's wife is my sister. Can such a coincidence even be possible? "That means we're relatives now," said Benjamin Wells, a university hospital doctor and my sister's husband, unable to hide his surprise. He expressed his apologies for any past misunderstandings involving his family. I had recently taken my son to Benjamin because he was feeling unwell, marking our only direct connection besides James's professional interactions with other doctors, including Benjamin, who held James in high regard. How's Max feeling now? From my diagnosis, he should start receiving treatment immediately. I suggest you get him tested and hospitalized at my hospital, Benjamin kindly offered. Despite his good intentions, I hesitated. Actually, we've decided to seek a second opinion. His surprise was evident, possibly because he viewed my son's case as special, but I was cautious about my child being seen as just another case. Suddenly, a mocking voice cut through. Why do you act so high and mighty? Marrying a doctor doesn't change your worth or your education. And thinking of raising a child? Poor kid. It was Natalia, my sister, her words sharp and dismissive. Benjamin quickly intervened. Natalia, please stop. We're family. Why do you say such things? Unmoved by Benjamin's plea, Natalia's stance was rigid with self-righteousness. James, witnessing this, turned to me with doubt in his eyes. Anna, are they really your family? I shook my head. No, these people can no longer be called family. I recounted the harsh realities of my childhood, how they'd scold me without cause, refuse me food for minor accidents, give me secondhand clothes while flaunting the new outfits they bought for Natalia, and even destroy my study materials. They're not my family, I affirmed. A true family wouldn't expose you to harsh conditions, lock you in extreme environments, or sell your belongings without consent. The conversation revealed the extent of the unfair treatment I endured, shocking Benjamin and my parents. The town had long suspected abuse at the family clinic, leading to a decline in their business, yet my parents failed to see that their actions were the root cause. As this cruel history unfolded, my in-laws, who had learned of my past struggles, felt a profound sense of outrage, deeper even than my own. James, alongside his parents, had been looking into my family's clinic, potentially as a form of retribution for the injustices I endured. Stop it. Stop lying. We never did those things. It's your fault for being a failure. Benjamin, don't believe a word she says, Natalia protested vehemently. But it was too late. Benjamin looked at her with disdain. I thought to myself, none of this would have happened if she had just walked away and ignored me all those years ago. Instead, the truth about our family was laid bare, altering perceptions and relationships irreversibly. Benjamin accused me of lying. Lying about what? I asked, genuinely confused. Mrs. Miller, he claimed, had only finished high school, but I knew better. She was not only a college graduate, but a successful entrepreneur and CEO of a company crucial to our clinic's operations. My sister looked at me, shocked as if I had revealed something extraordinary. My parents were just as surprised. Stop lying. She's just a high school graduate, my sister insisted. Are you suggesting she went to college secretly? Without our knowledge, my mother questioned, her tone accusatory. Yes, I did attend college, I confessed. I was an adult, under no obligation to inform people who weren't my family. Their disbelief was evident. How can you speak to your parents this way? We didn't approve of your college education, my father exclaimed angrily. Why would I need your permission? I replied calmly, my response leaving them visibly indignant. After high school, I worked various jobs and saved enough money to fund my college tuition. My desire to learn and grow was strong, and living independently allowed me the freedom to explore my potential. During college, I launched my own business and met my future husband. These reflections stirred deep emotions within me. Meanwhile, my sister, pale-faced, muttered to herself, I can't believe it. I always thought she was incapable of achieving anything significant on her own. She was bewildered by my success, puzzled as to why I seemed happier and more accomplished than her. Perhaps it's because, despite our family's unfair treatment, I never stopped striving, and perhaps luck also played a role, I suggested. Turning to confront my sister, I dropped another bombshell. By the way, I heard you dropped out of middle school. Is that true? This revelation stunned everyone, including Benjamin and what I now consider my former parents. What are you talking about? Who dropped out of middle school, my sister replied, though I admired her attempt to be brave. A distant relative, a cousin of our father renowned for his informational acumen, had told me about her academic struggles after I had left home. He mentioned her overconfidence and lack of preparation for a prestigious school's entrance exam, which led to her failure. Following that, she became withdrawn and only recently re-entered society through a marriage arrangement made by our parents. As I continued, Benjamin's expression turned stern, and my parents and sister grew paler. This cousin, despite our few encounters, had taken care of me and even vouched for me in the past. "What nonsense are you spouting?" My sister trembled as she spoke. I continued, "And isn't it also true that your claim of working in medical administration is a sham? You aren't qualified for specialist tasks, handling only menial duties instead." "Stop it. You're lying," she cried out in denial. Perhaps what I heard was merely a rumor. "Whether you believe it or not is your choice," I concluded. At that, my sister turned to Benjamin, searching his face for any sign of belief or rejection. His expression was a mix of doubt, confusion, and evident disdain. She had once claimed to have graduated from a prestigious women's university, but now even that seemed questionable. Benjamin was questioning the validity of the credentials my sister had presented to support her connection with our family's hospital. "Are you telling me all of that was fabricated?" he asked, suspecting she had falsified her academic history, which amounted to fraud. "Have you deceived me?" He pressed for an answer. "No, Benjamin. Please don't believe her over me. You're my husband. You should trust me," she implored, desperation clear in her voice. However, Benjamin was not convinced and challenged her further. "Then name just one professor from the university you claim to have attended," he demanded. Caught off guard and visibly flustered, my sister couldn't come up with a single name. "That's not important right now, is it?" She deflected, but Benjamin was relentless. "Really? Let's call a professor from the department you supposedly attended right now." He knew this professor personally, as he was a family friend closely tied to our parents. As Benjamin reached for his smartphone, determined to uncover the truth, my sister panicked. "Please stop. That's not necessary, Benjamin. If you trust me, that's enough," she pleaded. Suddenly, in a swift motion driven by desperation, Natalia snatched the smartphone from Benjamin's hand and slammed it onto the floor. Overcome by anger, she stomped on it repeatedly with her high heels, completely destroying the device. Her face contorted with rage, making her appear almost monstrous. This shocking display stunned everyone around, including Benjamin. The sudden outburst caused a commotion, drawing the attention of other guests and staff who watched in disbelief. Amidst the chaos, my parents attempted to calm Natalia down, but her anger was not easily quelled. For a moment, the venue was thrown into disarray by the intense disturbance. Observing all this, I felt detached, as if this drama involved strangers rather than my own family. At that point, I realized that my true family consisted only of my husband and son. "Shall we go home?" I suggested to my husband, James, who seemed surprised by the abrupt suggestion. "Are we finishing up already, Anna?" he asked. I smiled calmly and replied, "It's okay. Let's go home." "Oh, and let's stop by the cake shop at this hotel on our way back. They have a cake that's been very popular lately." "That sounds like a good idea," James agreed, and with a light laugh, we left the chaotic scene behind. Later, I learned that Benjamin had become embroiled in a lawsuit for making false diagnoses and overcharging patients. Following this, my former parents, now in a dire situation, sought my help. However, they didn't have my current contact details and ended up at the hospital where my husband worked, desperately wanting to see us. "So, she's the daughter-in-law of the hospital heir?" "She is our daughter. Please let us see her right away," they proclaimed loudly at the reception, causing quite a stir. Contacting the son of the hospital director should solve our problems instantly. "We're really in trouble. We need her to repay the kindness we raised her with. We are family, so it's only natural to seek help," they argued, oblivious to how it sounded. However, it wasn't my husband or I who responded, but coincidentally my in-laws. With stern expressions, they firmly asked my parents, "What business do you have with our daughter?" Unsettled by the stern response, my parents literally froze on the spot and quickly left the scene, continuing to try contacting us several times afterward. When I learned that the hospital run by my former parents had shut down, I didn't feel much of anything. Instead, there was a sense of relief, a feeling that they had finally faced the consequences of their own decisions. It felt like a moment of fresh air in my life. Later, I heard that Natalia and Benjamin's marriage had ended in divorce. Considering the challenges they faced, including Benjamin's legal troubles and his firing from the hospital, it was surprising their union had lasted even a few months. Natalia, always striving to outdo my happiness, had made yet another poor decision in her pursuit of a better life. She began an affair with an older, married doctor, hoping it would elevate her status. However, when the affair surfaced, it caused a scandal, and the doctor's wife demanded compensation. In desperation, Natalia turned to her parents, but they disowned her, labeling her a disgrace. After that, Natalia's life seemed to spiral further. She had already struggled academically, failing her high school entrance exams, which led her to live a secluded life at home. Eventually, she drifted into working at night, facing challenges that pushed her towards health issues and, ultimately, homelessness. As these stories reached me, my interest in her life waned. Meanwhile, as retirement loomed, my former parents found themselves struggling to secure positions in healthcare. No hospital was willing to hire them, likely due to their notorious reputation and perhaps as a consequence of how they had treated me in the past. They had become mere figures from a previous chapter in my life, and I found I no longer had the energy or desire to think about them. On a brighter note, my son's health improved significantly. After being reevaluated at a different medical facility, he no longer needed hospitalization. With the right medication, his condition was well managed. This development reaffirmed my commitment to do everything possible to protect and provide for my family, steering clear of the turmoil that once surrounded us.